Small boy ran into truck stop screaming, "They're hurting my sister." 7 truckers did the unthinkable. The boy couldn't have been more than 8 years old when he burst through the glass doors of the Iron Horse truck stop outside Amarillo, Texas, his bare feet leaving bloody prints on the linoleum floor. His Superman pajamas were torn at the shoulder, and his face was streaked with tears and dirt. He didn't run to the cashier or the security guard eating donuts by the coffee station. He ran straight into the driver's lounge, where 7 truckers sat in various states of exhaustion, some nursing their 3rd cup of coffee, others halfway through their mandated rest periods. The boy's voice cracked when he screamed it, high and desperate and absolutely certain that these strangers would help him. "They're hurting my sister. Please, they're hurting my sister." Marcus Ironside Chen was the first one on his feet. 42 years old, former Marine Corps MP, now hauling refrigerated goods across the Southwest for the past 15 years. He'd been staring at a photograph of his own daughter when the boy ran in, and something in the kid's eyes made his blood run cold. Marcus knelt down, put both hands on the boy's trembling shoulders, and spoke in the calm, measured tone he'd used to talk down armed suspects back in his military days. "Son, I need you to breathe and tell me exactly what's happening. Where's your sister?" The boy's name was Danny Reeves, and between gasping sobs, he told them everything. His sister Emma was 14. They'd been traveling with their mom's boyfriend, a man named Carl Hutchins, in his RV parked at the campground 2 miles down the highway. Their mother had died 6 months ago from cancer. Carl had seemed nice at first, had promised to take care of them, had legal temporary guardianship papers and everything. But 3 days ago, Carl's friend showed up, a man Danny only knew as Mr. Ray. Tonight, Danny woke up to Emma screaming. He saw Mr. Ray's hand over her mouth. He saw Carl holding her arms. Danny did what Emma had made him promise to do if anything ever felt wrong. He ran. He ran in his bare feet down 2 miles of dark Texas highway to the only lights he could see, this truck stop, because Emma once told him truckers were like knights of the road, that they protected people. The other 6 truckers were already standing. There was Sarah Mama Bear Williams, 58, a grandmother who'd been driving for 30 years and had a concealed carry permit in 48 states. There was James Preacher Morrison, a former lawyer turned trucker after a breakdown, who still kept his bar license active in Texas. There was Tommy Kid Rodriguez, 26, the youngest of them, whose sister had been trafficked when he was in high school. There was Robert Doc Patterson, a former Army medic who now hauled medical supplies. There was Chen Lucky Wu, no relation to Marcus, a tech genius who drove trucks because he liked the solitude but could hack into almost anything. And there was William Old Bill Crawford, 71 years old, a Korean War veteran who'd been driving trucks since 1975 and had seen every kind of evil the road could offer. Marcus looked at each of them and saw the same expression he knew was on his own face, that particular kind of cold fury that comes when you realize you're standing at a crossroads between walking away and doing something that can't be undone. Preacher was already on his phone with 911, his voice sharp and professional, giving the dispatcher the campground location and describing a potential assault in progress. But they all knew how this worked. Rural Texas, middle of the night, understaffed sheriff's department. Response time could be 20 minutes, could be 40, could be too late. Sarah pulled Danny close, checking his feet, wrapping them in a clean shirt from her bag. She spoke softly to him, asking questions. "How many men? Just the 2? Any weapons you saw? Any other vehicles?" Danny answered between shaking breaths. "Just Carl's RV. Carl had a gun. He'd seen it in the glove box. Mr. Ray had a knife on his belt. Emma had told him to run and not look back, but he looked back once and saw the RV door close, and that's when he ran faster than he'd ever run in his life." Old Bill was the one who said what they were all thinking. His voice was gravelly from 50 years of unfiltered cigarettes and diesel fumes. We ain't waiting for the law. That little girl's got maybe 10 minutes before those bastards realize the boy's gone and they run. We go now, we go smart, and we bring her home." Nobody argued. Tommy was already pulling on his boots. Doc was grabbing his medical kit from his truck. Lucky was pulling up satellite imagery of the campground on his tablet, showing them the layout, the access roads, the RV's likely position. Marcus made the call that would define everything that followed. He looked at Preacher. "You stay here with the boy and the dispatcher. Keep that 911 line open and guide the deputies in when they arrive. Tell them we're citizens performing a rescue, not vigilantes. Everything we do is legal intervention to prevent imminent harm." Preacher nodded, understanding. He'd keep them on the right side of the law. Barely. "The rest of you, we move as a unit. No heroes, no cowboys. We extract the girl, we contain the suspects, we wait for law enforcement. Agreed?" 6 voices answered in unison. Agreed. They moved like a military unit because 3 of them had been military. Marcus led in his Peterbilt, Sarah and Tommy in her Freightliner, Doc and Lucky in Doc's Kenworth, Old Bill bringing up the rear in his ancient but immaculate Western Star. They didn't use their running lights. They communicated on CB Channel 19, using the trucker codes they all knew by heart. "Ironside to Convoy. We're rolling dark to the campground, 2 miles south. Mama Bear, you and Kid take the east access. Doc and Lucky, west side. Old Bill, you block the main exit. Nobody leaves that campground until we have the girl." The campground was exactly what Lucky's satellite images had shown. A dozen RV spots, most empty this time of year, scattered trees, a single access road. Carl's RV was a 30-foot Winnebago parked in spot 7, lights on inside, generator running. Marcus could hear music playing, something with heavy bass that made his jaw clench. He'd seen this before in raid houses in Iraq, predators who played music loud to cover sounds. He keyed his CB. "All units, visual confirmation on target vehicle. Lights on, music loud, generator running. I'm going to the door. Mama Bear, you're my backup. Everyone else, perimeter positions. If they run, you stop them. Non-lethal if possible. But that girl's safety is priority 1. Sarah was beside him 30 seconds later, her hand resting on the Glock 19 holstered at her hip. She'd raised 4 kids, buried 1 husband, and had a tattoo on her forearm that read, "Not on my watch." She looked at Marcus and nodded once. "Let's go get her." Marcus knocked on the RV door. Not a polite knock. The kind of knock that says, "Open this door or I'm coming through it." The music cut off immediately. There was scrambling inside, hushed, urgent voices. Marcus knocked again, harder. "Carl Hutchins, this is Marcus Chen. I'm here for Emma Reeves. You're going to open this door right now and send her out, or things are going to get very complicated for you very fast." The door cracked open. Carl was maybe 45, soft around the middle, thinning hair, the kind of face that looked trustworthy in family court. He tried to smile, tried to look confused. "I don't know what you're talking about, friend. There's no Emma here. You must have the wrong RV." Marcus didn't smile back. His voice dropped to the tone he'd used on insurgents who thought Americans were soft. "I'm going to say this once. Emma's 8-year-old brother is at the truck stop, with bloody feet and terror in his eyes. He told us everything. The sheriff's department is en route. You have 2 choices. Send Emma out right now, unharmed, and maybe you see a courtroom instead of a morgue. Or make me come in there and get her." That's when Mr. Ray appeared behind Carl. Bigger man, harder eyes, prison tattoos on his neck. He had the look of someone who'd hurt people before and enjoyed it. He started to reach for something at his waistband. He never completed the motion. Sarah's voice cut through the night air, calm and absolutely certain. "I wouldn't do that, sweetheart. I've got a 9mm pointed at your center mass, and at this range, I don't miss. Behind you are 4 more truckers, all armed, all former military or law enforcement, and all really hoping you give them a reason. So here's what's going to happen. Emma walks out that door right now, unharmed, or we come in and get her. And you two get to explain to the paramedics why you thought it was a good idea to threaten a 14-year-old girl in front of 7 very angry truckers. For a moment, everything hung in balance. Carl's hand twitched toward the RV's interior. Mr. Ray's eyes darted left and right, calculating odds. Then Emma appeared between them. She was small for 14, dark hair tangled, wearing an oversized t-shirt, her eyes wide with fear and desperate hope. She looked at Marcus and Sarah and whispered, "Please, please get me out of here." Marcus moved faster than a man his size should be able to move. He stepped up into the RV, put himself between Emma and the two men, and guided her down the steps to Sarah, who immediately wrapped the girl in a blanket someone had materialized from somewhere. "Emma, you're safe now. Your brother's safe. These men can't hurt you anymore." Emma collapsed into Sarah's arms, sobbing, and Sarah held her like she'd held her own daughters, fierce and protective and absolutely immovable. Inside the RV, Marcus stood facing Carl and Mr. Ray. His voice was conversational now, almost friendly, which somehow made it more terrifying. "Here's what's going to happen next. You two are going to sit down on that couch and put your hands where I can see them. My friend Doc is going to come in here and make sure Emma doesn't need immediate medical attention. My friend Lucky is going to take some photographs of this RV's interior for evidence. And we're all going to wait very quietly for the sheriff's deputies to arrive. If either of you moves, speaks, or even breathes wrong, my friends outside will ensure you regret it. Do we understand each other?" They understood. 20 minutes later, 3 sheriff's cruisers rolled into the campground, lights flashing. Deputy Sarah Chen, no relation to Marcus, was the first one out. She was young, maybe 30, but she had the eyes of someone who'd worked sex crimes and knew exactly what she was looking at. She took one look at Emma, wrapped in Sarah's arms, at Danny, who Preacher had brought to the scene, at the 7 truckers standing in a loose perimeter around the RV, and at Carl and Mr. Ray sitting on the couch inside with their hands visible and their faces pale. She keyed her radio. "Dispatch, I need CPS, I need a female detective, and I need someone from the DA's office. We've got a child rescue situation and 2 suspects in custody." What Deputy Chen found in that RV would make the local news for weeks. Carl's laptop contained evidence of a trafficking network. Mr. Ray had outstanding warrants in 3 states. The temporary guardianship papers Carl had for Danny and Emma were forged. Their mother's will had named her sister in Colorado as guardian, but Carl had intercepted the notification and filed false documents. He'd been grooming Emma for months, waiting until they were far enough from anyone who knew the family. Danny's midnight run had likely saved his sister's life. The 7 truckers gave their statements one by one. Preacher, with his legal background, made sure every word was carefully chosen. They were citizens who responded to a child's plea for help. They performed a rescue to prevent imminent harm. They used minimum necessary force. They detained suspects until law enforcement arrived. Everything by the book. Everything defensible. The DA, a woman named Patricia Morales, who'd been prosecuting predators for 20 years, looked at the 7 of them and said something that would stick with Marcus for the rest of his life. "You know what you did tonight. You gave those kids their lives back. You gave them a chance to be children again instead of victims. I don't care if you're truckers or teachers or astronauts. You're heroes, and I'm gonna make damn sure those 2 monsters never see daylight again." The trial took 8 months. Carl Hutchins and Raymond Mr. Ray Decker were charged with attempted sexual assault of a minor, child endangerment, kidnapping, falsifying legal documents, and conspiracy to commit human trafficking. The evidence was overwhelming. The 7 truckers testified. Danny testified, holding his sister's hand. Emma testified, her voice steady and strong, looking her abusers in the eye and telling the jury exactly what they tried to do to her. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Guilty on all counts. Carl got 35 years. Ray got 45. Neither would be eligible for parole. Emma and Danny went to live with their aunt in Colorado. The aunt, Rebecca Reeves, drove to Texas to meet the 7 truckers before she took the kids home. She stood in the parking lot of that same Iron Horse truck stop, tears streaming down her face, and tried to find words big enough to contain her gratitude. "You gave me my sister's children. You gave them a future. How do I ever thank you for that?" Old Bill was the one who answered, his voice gruff but gentle. "Ma'am, you don't thank us. You take those kids home. You love them hard. You help them heal. And you teach them that there are still good people in this world. That's all the thanks we need." But the story didn't end there. Tommy Kid Rodriguez, the youngest of the 7, used his experience that night to start a nonprofit called Highway Angels. He partnered with truck stops across the country to train staff on recognizing signs of trafficking and abuse. He created a network of truckers who volunteered to be on call for emergency interventions. Within 2 years, Highway Angels had facilitated 17 rescues and provided resources to hundreds of at-risk children. Sarah Mama Bear Williams became a spokesperson for the Truckers Against Trafficking organization, traveling to conferences and training sessions, telling Emma and Danny's story to thousands of drivers. She carried a photograph of the 2 kids in her truck, updated every year by their aunt. In the photo from last year, Emma was 18, about to start college with a full scholarship to study social work. Danny was 12, playing Little League baseball, smiling wide. Sarah kept that photo clipped to her sun visor, a reminder of why she did what she did. Marcus Ironside Chen never talked much about that night. He went back to hauling refrigerated goods, driving his routes, living his quiet life. But other truckers knew. Word spread on the CB channels, in the truck stop lounges, through the invisible network that connects drivers across the country. When Marcus pulled into a truck stop, younger drivers would nod with respect. Veterans would buy him coffee. Everyone knew about the trucker who'd led the rescue of 2 kids in Texas. Marcus would just shrug and say he did what anyone would do. But they all knew better. Not everyone would do it, but he did. They all did. 5 years after that night, the 7 truckers gathered at the Iron Horse truck stop for a reunion. It wasn't planned, wasn't organized, just happened that their routes all converged on the same night. They sat in the same driver's lounge where Danny had first run in, and they didn't talk much about what they'd done. They talked about their roots, their trucks, their families. They were just truckers, doing what truckers do, rolling down the highway and looking out for each other. But before they left, Old Bill raised his coffee cup in a toast. To promises kept, to kids saved, to the road that brings us together when it matters most. 7 cups clinked together in that fluorescent-lit lounge, and 7 voices echoed the sentiment. To the road. Emma Reeves, now 19 years old, wrote a letter that was published in Overdrive magazine, the truckers' trade publication. She titled it, "Thank You to the Knights of the Highway." In it, she described that night from her perspective, the terror and the helplessness, and the moment she heard Marcus's voice at the door and knew she was going to be okay. She wrote about her life now, about her studies, about her dream of becoming a child advocate attorney. She wrote about Danny, who wanted to be a trucker when he grew up, who wore a toy CB radio on his belt and practiced his 10-4 good buddy in the mirror. And she ended with these words, "To the 7 truckers who saved us that night, you didn't just rescue us from 2 evil men. You rescued us from a future that would have destroyed us. You showed us that strangers can be heroes, that ordinary people do extraordinary things, that the world still has light in it. I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of what you did for us. Thank you will never be enough, but thank you, thank you, thank you." The letter went viral in the trucking community. It was shared on forums, read aloud on CB channels, posted in truck stops across the country. It became a reminder of what the job could mean, beyond the miles and the deliveries and the endless highway. It became a story that drivers told to explain why they did what they did, why they stayed on the road, why they answered the call when someone needed help. Because that's what truckers do. They keep their promises. They protect the vulnerable. They show up when it matters. They don't do it for glory or recognition or thanks. They do it because a little boy in Superman pajamas ran into a truck stop screaming for help and walking away with never an option. They do it because somewhere on the highway of life, we're all just trying to get home safe, and sometimes we need someone to watch our backs. They do it because the road is long and dark and dangerous, but it's a little less so when you know there are people out there who will stop everything to help a stranger in need. Marcus Ironside Chen still drives his Peterbilt across the Southwest. He still carries that photograph of his daughter. But now he also carries a photograph that Emma's aunt sends him every year, showing two kids who got to grow up because 7 truckers decided that some things matter more than schedules and sleep and staying out of trouble. He looks at that photograph sometimes, at rest stops in the middle of nowhere, and he thinks about that night. He thinks about the choice they made, the risk they took, the line they walked between legal and vigilante. And he knows, with absolute certainty, that he'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because promises aren't just words on the highway of life. They're the fuel that keeps us moving forward. They're the light that guides us through the darkest nights. They're the reason we get up every morning and point our trucks toward the horizon, knowing that somewhere out there someone might need us. And when that call comes, when that desperate voice cries out for help, we don't hesitate. We don't calculate the odds. We don't worry about the consequences. We just go. We just help. We just do what needs to be done. That's the trucker's code. That's the brotherhood of the road. That's what it means to be a knight of the highway, rolling through the darkness, watching over the innocent, keeping the promises that matter most. 7 truckers proved it one night in Texas. And somewhere right now, on some dark highway in some forgotten corner of America, another trucker is about to prove it again. Because the road never ends, and neither does the need for people who will answer the call. 10-4, good buddy. Keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down. And if you see someone who needs help, you stop. You always stop. Because that's what we do. That's who we are. That's the promise we make every time we fire up our engines and roll out onto that endless highway. We're truckers. We're heroes. We're the ones who show up when everyone else has given up. And we wouldn't have it any other way.